First shot of this episode, we see characters that will obviously be important later to the plot, but honestly, they should have kept their appearances away from us, the viewers, at least until they actually play an important part. I'd rather it be a "this is interesting" moment compared to a "hey, you're the one from the picture earlier" moment.
And that weird jelly cake looking thing.
Weird jelly cake looking thing. Also, how are the rest of the gang even allowed to be in this castle since they had to whack Chemo, the head of security, in his hair to get inside? And why hasn't Chemo radioed in for their immediate arrest due to trespassing?
If this was a Duel Munchers competition?
Duel Munchers competition. It was obviously made for a joke, so the Pun Chaos trap card will not be activated at this time. This castle had food for 3 additional guests ready to go just on the very case that anyone aside from the 4 finalists of the Duelist Kingdom tournament just so happened to show up. Or in this case, trespass.
You all have your playoff entry cards.
Huh?
This really has been the most vague tournament I have ever seen, as nobody at the table even knows what the playoff entry cards are supposed to be. Either they didn't properly read the invitations, or the invitations themselves forgot to mention that requirement.
You must have one of these to participate in the final tournament.
That's only a factor because Joey doesn't even have one of those cards and Yugi needs to find a reason to give one of his cards up. Also, the Glory of the King's hand card allows the winner of the tournament to receive the $3 million prize, whereas the Glory of the King's opposite hand card allows the winner to face Pegasus in a duel. Had it not been for Pegasus capturing Yugi's grandpa's soul, I guarantee nobody would face Pegasus over taking the money. Once again showing that this doesn't make any sense to have 2 entry cards, much less a choice of what to have.
The millions of cards I own, I run across the 2 that I don't.
So was Bandit Keith not invited to participate in this tournament? If so, did he sneak onto the ship with his gang of servants like Taya and Tristan did? Or did he get invited, but chose not to bring those cards due to the invitation being vague and stupid? No, not even in anime would an eye be completely submerged in a bowl of soup until it's dramatically revealed by someone announcing it. That would have floated on the surface of the broth immediately upon being served.
Who has C?
Jeez, what are you yelling for? Only reason Joey would be demanding who has the letter C is if it was conveniently Bandit Keith. Imagine if Yugi was the one who had C. That would have been embarrassing for Joey after that overreaction.
I can't believe you drank the entire eyeball soup.
Well, considering it was just a plastic object and not a real eyeball, I would have still finished the soup. There's a difference, Taya.
The rules never said we needed both cards to compete.
After everything these guys have been through with Bandit Keith, complete with trying to kill them by trapping them in a cave, why didn't Yugi at least wait until they were safely away from him before talking about personal things?
If you give up now, who's going to save your sister?
You?
Good night, everybody.
Taya, Tristan, and Bakura are literally trespassers who are not even participants in the Duelist Kingdom tournament. So how did the castle have bedrooms ready for them? They only arrived in the castle hours ago and were never supposed to be here.
Time to catch some Z's.
Don't snore too loud.
How would that be a problem? You guys aren't sharing a room, and I doubt a castle as luxurious as this one would have extremely thin walls.
You kept us up half the night at the campfire.
Taya complains that Joey kept the gang up for half the night at their camp. If you recall, the only one who kept them up at night was Seto Kaiba making his entrance with his helicopter. Also, consider that payback for forcing Joey to sleep with a log for a pillow.
Gigantic donut!
Are we sure it was the snoring that kept the gang up for over half of last night and not Joey randomly shouting out food items?
But Pegasus beat him like he was an amateur.
Tristan is somehow saying all this without actually moving his mouth. The only thing moving in the shot was the spinning camera.
The way he was dueling, it seemed like he knew what cards were in Kaiba's hand.
Tristan must have short-term memory loss because that's the only explanation for him not remembering what happened with Yugi in the second episode. And I guarantee Yugi would never leave that piece of information out.
We'll find out how Pegasus cheated.
After all, I've done literally nothing of usefulness since being introduced in this series and must do something to help out the protagonist. And after this, people will remember my sacrifice and I will rise to become a strong and talented duelist. Sorry, I couldn't say that with a straight face.
We'll expose Pegasus for the fraud that he is.
Sure, this will totally work despite the fact that there are security all over this castle. And yet somehow there's not because these assholes stroll throughout the castle with no issues whatsoever. And I call bullshit on that.
With all the gods everywhere, we'll need help from Yugi and Joey.
I already mentioned the part about the security being completely absent in this mission, but what is Bakura trying to do? Use Joey and Yugi as distractions so that they can perform said mission? Thankfully, Tristan immediately shuts it down because that is the dumbest idea ever.
And besides, a herd of elephants won't wake Joey.
If a herd of elephants making noise all at once wouldn't be able to wake Joey, I highly doubt Kaiba's helicopter would have been able to earlier. Yugi goes to bed with that collar strapped around his neck? That's gotta be uncomfortable as shit. Also, thus begins an entire episode dedicated to 4 different situations happening at once. Yugi dreaming of his grandfather's voice guiding him, Bandit Keith trying to steal Joey's glory card, Mai preparing for a duel tomorrow, and the other guys performing a sting operation on Pegasus. This is definitely an episode you can skip for the most part.
Keep searching, guys.
And make sure to talk as loudly as possible. Sure, these guys haven't run into guards once, but there's no telling when and where they could show up.
The lady said I'll have a nice girlfriend within 6 months. It's been a year, not a single date.
Judging by the sweat on Taya's head, it's safe to say she was the girl Tristan could have ended up with, but then she dumped him before he ever noticed what was going on. So that psychic lady was actually correct.
What do you see?
Forget what he sees. How the hell did Tristan manage to climb up that wall considering the ceiling is too high even for Taya and Bakura to give him a leg up, without falling into the bottomless pit no less?
What about the gods?
You'll be safe with me.
That doesn't really answer the question. Unless you plan to kill every guard in sight, I don't feel safe on this mission.
Keep it down. There's goons around that corner.
That's strange. We have not once seen a single goon anywhere during the sequence. Why keep them off screen?
He knows my deck almost as well as I do.
Yugi only saw my duel one single time 2 days ago, and I say that because he was in a depressed trance the second time, yet that somehow means he knows everything about Mai's deck. And if he does, that shows less about his ability and more on how lame Mai's deck truly is. When the hell did Joey replace Bakura on this mission?
He's got to be stopped.
And my hand must be repaired because I just broke it when I punched the ground. Ow, this hurts so much.
Taya, take the lead and we'll follow you.
You just want to see up her skirt, don't you? Funny enough, that's exactly what happened in the Japanese edition. Tristan believes that knocking on the floor will somehow reveal a clue to a hidden telescope. This is not an escape room, guys.
Pegasus!
How'd you find us?
This is Pegasus's private room and you're asking him how he found you? So much for this heroic mission. Tristan once again is the most worthless character in this entire series.
You break into my private sanctuary and accuse me of wrongdoing?
Not to mention that you guys were never supposed to be on this island in the first place, which doubles my reason to have you guys imprisoned. Also, I would have honestly liked this episode if it ended with Pegasus trapping the souls of Taya, Tristan, and Bakura in his collection of soul cards, after which he acquires the Millennium Ring. At least then, Pegasus would be even more powerful and give Yugi bigger reasons to defeat him once and for all.
What?
I would be freaked out by this, but all I can think about is how these disciples literally slid across the floor to reach the gang. That was weird.
For I shall also gain control of your Millennium Ring.
Pegasus hints at something that actually sounds entertaining, but then everything gets turned around into a giant waste of time by having Thief King Bakura erase everyone's memories. Once again proving that this episode is absolutely useless. So, did the Thief King bring everyone back to their rooms just like that? Or did he literally drag Taya and Tristan to their respective rooms before retreating to his own? Also, if his goal was to acquire the Millennium Items, why didn't the Thief King go ahead and acquire Pegasus' Millennium Eye right then and there? If he can erase memories, he absolutely can overpower Pegasus and remove the eye immediately.